is Caitlin, known just about everywhere on the internet as Shelabobby, and this is my podcast where I talk about my knitting, my crochet, cross stitch every once in a while, acquisitions. Today we have stats for the third quarter, and I also have a little bit of book news, what I am currently reading and what I have finished reading. It's been 3 weeks since I last recorded. Usually I do every 2 weeks, but last weekend was very busy, and I was going to record after we got back from a Sam's Club run, and I just was grumpy. I was grumpy, and y'all didn't need to see me grumpy, and so I didn't record, which is okay. That gave me some more time because I had Castonitis like crazy, and so I have some fun things to talk to you about. Not just socks. We have some fun things. Yeah. So we will start with finished objects. And I have 3 separate finished objects for you today. The first one is some socks. So these are my vanilla bean socks, which is a pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady. And it is a fun texture, which you can't really see in video or pictures or anything like that, but it is a fun texture. And these are in the colorway The Raven from That Is Dishy. I have also had some coffee, so if I talk very fast, I'm so sorry, but this is the yarn is Yarnable, The Raven, which I believe was 2023, but could have been 2022. I can't remember exactly the year that these were in. It was before they put the year on the sticker. So that is the main color of these socks. And then the cuff and toe is a mini that I had in stash, which I think is I cannot remember what it is. The Wicked Stitch. I was like, it's Wicked something. The Wicked Stitch, I think, is where that particular mini came from. But yes, it was just a mini that I had in my stash. And these socks are for my sister. So some details about this. Obviously, I said it was the Vanilla Bean pattern by the Crazy Sock Lady. Raven from Yarnable. I started these on August 9th and finished them September 19th. While the pattern is very easy, it was one that you had to pay attention to what you were doing. You couldn't just knit without thinking about it. You had to, make changes every couple of rows. So because of that, I did not stick to these very much. I've been playing games Roblox with my niece quite a bit, and that's just not a pattern that allowed for me to play with her and knit at the same time. So these were only able to get done when I was able to put full focus and be able to pay attention. I knit the medium size, which is 64 stitches, and I used a US 1 2.25 millimeter. Magic loop is my preferred method. I think that is all for these. So these will pop in the bag of socks that I have for her. They will be gifted for Christmas. So when I am wrapping gifts for her, I'll make her a little box that has, I usually do a box of handmade things for her. Hopefully I'll have a shrug type thing for her. That's going to be self-drafted. So I'm using something that she already has, and I'm going to self-draft that. That was something I almost cast on this weekend. Wouldn't put it past me to swatch and do it today. But we'll see. You'll see that in the future. But that shouldn't take too long because it's going to be using worsted weight yarn. So that should go fairly quickly, and hopefully I can get that for her for Christmas. We'll see. We'll see. We're running out of time. It's October. Anyway, these socks are for her. And I'm going to take one of the socks off of the blocker because I'm going to need it for works in progress. Alrighty. The next one is a plastic bag holder. I've made 2 of these in a pattern. which was a free pattern that I cannot think of the girl's name. And while that pattern is really cute, it has like little cluster stitches. Is that coffee kicking in? The cluster stitches. When I wanted to make this for my grandma, I did not want to do the cluster stitches. So I just used the beginning counts and made up my own. So this is just a plastic bag holder. It has a little loopy-loop on it for her to hang up, and then you stuff the bags in there, and the bottom has a elastic band to pull the bags out. This is using Knit Picks Dishy in the colorway silver. Double check that. Yep, silver. And it used most of a skein to do this. And what I did was every couple of rows, I just did a slip stitch and skipped one of the stitches, and then did the half double crochet in the other one. So fairly simple pattern. I just kind of evened out the rows to what made sense for that. And then I did on the back, I had to do a little bit of management since I was working in a spiral and not, you know, joining with a slip stitch and then chaining up. I just did a spiral. So in the back, I did a little bit of management on where those jogs would happen for the pattern. It don't matter if there's a jog in it. I just didn't want it to be on the front because my beginning of round was halfway through by the time I got to the top. So yeah, so that will be for my grandma. Information on that is I did it on September 27th. It only took me the one day. I was also trying to get a little bit more grams in for the end of September. So that was a quick 100 gram-ish skein out and used up some of the cotton, which I've been trying to use up. So that is all for that. Again, there's no pattern for that. If you want the one for a pattern, it wasn't the last episode, but the episode before, I had my sister's, and I used the pattern for that had the cluster stitches, if you really, really want one. I think that's it for that one. So the last finished object that I have is actually a cross stitch. I know, crazy. So I did not bring over the package, but it is the Birth Samplers by Kathy Barrick. If you've been watching my podcast, then you know that I've been working on this since earlier in the year. I think I cast it on? No, I started it soon after the baby was born. And obviously she was born in March of this year. So I'm going to say I started at April or May when those Birth Samplers came out. That was fairly new as well. So, yeah, so I started it earlier in the spring. And when you guys saw it last time, I'm not even going to put a picture up of what you guys saw last time because I can just show you. Obviously, on the top of this, her first, middle, and last name is, and just for privacy reasons, I've folded it to hide her name. But, so that would be at the top of it. And what you guys were at last time is I didn't even have the feet in the bird. And then I've done the branch. I've done the bush here. Whatever this bud-like thing is. The date. This little border. And then it's her last name. And then her first name and middle name on top. So, yes. This is my second big cross stitch finish. I did make a teeny tiny pumpkin for my first cross stitch several years ago, and then last December I made a mushroom that said like allow yourself to grow or something along those lines. I made that for my sister for Christmas last year. I have a Heaven and Earth Design stitch along, which I have not worked on hardly any. But may pick up a little bit more now that the cross stitch itch is there. But I wanted to start the Holiday House by Satsuma Street. And because I wanted to start that, I was like, I need to finish one. Like, I need to finish one of these. So I wanted to finish the cross stitch that I was making for a family friend. So this is done. It is very wrinkly when I show it to you because I have already washed it, but I need to iron it. And I picked up a frame today to put it in. So it's just a pretty gold frame. It has the kickstand, or you can hang it. So I'm going to cut it and put it in here for a fully finished object. Probably won't show it to you anymore, but that is where it's going to go. And then I'm going to gift it to the family. But yes, that is a finished cross stitch, and you may see that start of the Satsuma one soon. I was going to start it yesterday, but I wanted to work on some of my knitting. The lettering took a lot longer than I thought it would. I did most of the name yesterday. I don't like the custom part of it. Where the bird was and everything like that, that was fun, fine, everything was good. But once I got to where I needed to like figure out like her birth date and how that would go on here, and then her name and how to center that, 0%. Hated it. I ripped out a couple of times because, especially on her name, because I did not realize when I was planning out the name and like what would need a certain number of stitches, I did not realize that there were multiple ways to write a single letter, and I didn't like the letter that was there. I didn't realize that I needed to move some spaces, and I messed up on a couple, but it actually worked in my favor because I had miscounted. Anyway, it is mostly centered in there, and I don't think you'll notice much. Once it's framed, there'll be a lot of white margin on there. So that is all for that. Oh, the colors on that. I did use my own color conversion because I did not want to go out and buy the colors that were called for, the DMC that was called for in the pattern, in the chart. So I did my own color conversion, and I just picked colors that I liked. So nothing fancy there. I did change a couple of the colors as well. Like the name part was supposed to be the really lily was supposed to be the yellowish color, and I didn't think that that would stand out by itself, and for it being her name, I wanted it to stand out, so I switched it to the plum, the dark plum, which was 902. That's the color that I used for the name. Yeah, so also a couple of mistakes, but we don't care. We don't point those out. They're fine. If you didn't notice them, then you win. Okie dokie. That is all of the finished objects that I have. So, works in progress. There's a lot of them. Last couple of weeks, even in the last podcast, I was just not in I don't want to say in a knitting mood, because I love to knit. I knit all the time. I knit, you know, if I'm sitting still and not needing my hands for other things like work or playing a game with Kate, I'm knitting. I'm making something. And so it's not that I didn't have knitting mojo or whatnot. It was just that I wasn't really inspired to do anything different than just some socks, just plain knitting, or work on my blankets where it's just plain knitting. So that got revamped over the last 3 weeks, and we've cast on some different things. So let's check in on blankets first, and then we'll get into socks, and then the new cast-ons. Anthology throw first. So my anthology throw lives in my Chippendale Disney bag. This one I wanted to finish in September, but it's looking like it'll probably be done this month if I continue at the pace that I am going. I cannot remember which color I am on currently, but I think I have 10 or so more colors. And they go fairly quickly if I am focusing on them. Let's find my stitch markers. There we go. So the mushroom is where you guys saw it last. So I've added in 3 full colors. 3 full colors. And I am actually adding in the 4th color. It just hasn't made it all the way around. I am now on the border rows of the blanket. So I've added another cord so that I can lay it out and see kind of what it looks like. So it is coming along quite nicely. So I am starting the, it's kind of a chevron is what I would reference it as, but it has gotten started in that new color. So there's only one little row there where it has begun. So this is the color that I am adding in right now. And then this one keeps popping off. Place it back on there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I only have 7, even less than I thought. So we're just going to go into these deep reds. This side is the end of it when this is the next color. So that is where I am with those. I typically work on this. I'm out of breath from the coffee, like my heart rate must be high. It was a Cappy from Dunkin' Donuts / Baskin Robbins. It was chocolate fudge. So good, but so much sugar. Anyway, I usually work on this while I am doing D&D with my friends, but because the chevron has so many different types of stitches, not the same repeat over and over again, you know, like 2 stitches, 2 stitches, 2 stitches. It's more of like a 5 or 6 stitch repeat that isn't very intuitive to me yet. I did not work on this the last D&D game, so I need to kind of dedicate an evening, kind of like I was doing with the socks, to be able to focus on the border of this. But it should go fairly quickly. I think it'll go down to 5 rounds per color versus the 10 that it was before, now that we've increased to the full stitch size. And I'm just going to knit the border as many colors as I can get in there. That is what the pattern suggests, so that is what I will do. If I didn't mention, because I cannot remember, this is the Anthology Throw by Helen Stewart. I'm using my Ruby and Roses advent calendar from 2024 into 2025 that I got last year, and just using them in order, using them fully up, not changing in the pattern when it suggests, just using them all the way up. So that's my Anthology Throw. I did also work on my diagonal blanket, which is by Snufflebean Yarn. That is in my Fat Squirrel Fibers bag. This is a diagonal fingering weight blanket that I am striping with different colors. And it is for a friend of mine. So the Buzz Lightyear, I'm all tangled, there we go. The Buzz Lightyear is where I was last time. So we are getting there. I am on row 1 or 2 of adding in the next color, where you're just striping them down the blanket. It is a diagonal one. So when I finish the repeat of the colors, it's 5 different colors. I think that will be a good enough width. And then I'll maybe do a little bit of length so that it's a rectangle. I'll have to measure my yarn and see where I'm at. It looks like I'm going to be okay, but I've never actually made a diagonal blanket, a corner to corner blanket. And so I don't know when you're supposed to stop. I know that you need a little bit more yarn for decreases than you do for increases. So we shall see. Yeah, I'm just using different yarns. He said he liked purples, so I went through my yarn stash and just picked out a whole bunch of purples. This color oops, wrong direction. This color right here is Some Bunny Loves You from Yarnable. This is Invisible String by Ruby and Roses. This is a One of a Kind from Yarnaceous Fibers. This is Let's Get Basted by Yarnable. And this is Witch Please from Yarnable. I think the Let's Get Basted and the Witch Please are both from last year. November and October from last year. I don't remember when the Some Bunny Loves You was, and the Invisible String is the Taylor Swift collection from Ruby and Roses. So just working through those colors, repeats and doing my best to get farther on this particular blanket. I'm going to move the stitch markers before I forget. This is actually what I worked on for D&D this week. And hopefully we'll continue to work on that. This is a nice D&D project to switch to while my anthology throw isn't as easy to work on during D&D at the moment. But my hope is to finish this one and the anthology throw fairly soon. Obviously this one is not even halfway yet, so it'll take a little bit longer, but I'm hoping the anthology throw will be done this month, and then I can start a new blanket. I have 2 blankets that I really want to make. One is a scrappy jelly roll with fingering weight, and then one is the I took a picture of it last night, so give me 1 second to look it up. It is by Sandra Paul, the Cherry Heart podcast, the Florentines blanket. Show you, be reflective, but it is a crochet, not granny square, but a crochet square blanket that is used with advent calendars, and it's fingering weight held double. And I have my advent calendar from Fangirl Fibers that I would like to use that one for, and then the undyed yarn that I purchased, the big cone, use that as like the main background color, and then maybe pick up some light blue. I'm gonna pull out the advent calendar before I go to SAF. We'll talk about that in a minute. And maybe pick up a border color for the squares and around the entire blanket at SAF. So that's the next blanket that I want to cast on. And then the jelly roll is just using up scraps. I have a little jar here that has super minis, and then I have a bag that has minis under 10 grams, and then I have an entire container of 20 plus grams. So lots of yarn to use for a jelly roll. That's on my list as well. So that's my blanket updates. That's where we are on those. I haven't worked on any of the other ones at the moment. I'm going to focus on these, get these done. Anthology throw just because it's the closest, and the diagonal one because it's a gift for a friend. And I said it would be done by the time it got cold again, but he lives in Wisconsin and it's probably already cold there. So a little bit late, maybe cold for me. All right, so let's get into socks next. So I have too many project bags over here. I have 2 pairs of socks that I'm working on at the moment. One of them you have seen, but I have a sock finish, so I'm going to put that on the blocker. These are the Coastal Waters socks by Roro and Cades, and it is a toe-up sock. And as I've said before, toe-up socks are not my preferred method to make socks with, but I don't hate it. I don't dislike it or anything like that. I just haven't made them a whole lot. And it shows in this particular sock because it is a little bit too long. It's fine for me in the way that I use my socks. I don't typically wear my socks in shoes. They're house socks for me. I work from home. I'm home majority of the time, so they're socks that I'm going to put on to be around the house in the chillier months, sit out on the porch when it's not freezing cold, when the weather just starts to turn. You know, I may put them in, you know, shoes to run outside to the chickens or whatnot, but they're not something that I need to worry too much about. They're just kind of house socks. But I did an extra repeat on these, and so they're about a ½ inch longer than I would like in the foot. But this is Coastal Waters, and it is a fairly simple sock pattern. I enjoyed the entire process of it. I do have a question though for my fellow sock knitters. Does toe-up socks have more stitches? Like, does it take longer? Is there more rows, more stitches that you have to do on a toe-up sock versus a slip stitch, heel flap, and gusset, cuff down? Because I swear these took forever. Like, I got to where it said in the foot, and like I said, I did do about 8 rows more than I should have on the length of the foot, but that's neither here nor there. That's 8 rows. But I just feel like the heel portion, which this is a Flegel heel, this section took forever, like forever to finish. Like more than a heel flap and gusset. So I don't know, does it take longer or is it just me because I'm not used to them? But I mean, heel flap gussets, I can, you know, shoot through you know, making the flap and the heel turn and the gusset. I can do all of that in one night, whereas this took me 2 nights to finish because it just took forever. Like I did all the increases and then I did all the decreases the next night. But anyway, that's not the pattern. I think that is literally just the construction of a toe up Flegel heel. I don't know. I've only done 3 toe up socks in my entire life, so I'm not one to judge. Well, three pairs. Anyway, neither here nor there. We don't need to go on that tangent. Anyway, this sock is lovely, and I did try a new cast off. If you guys were here when I did my last toe up sock, I said that I was not happy with the cast off because it fluted, flared out, using the Jenny Surprisingly Stretchy Judy's? Jenny's. Judy's. Jenny's is the cast on, Judy's is the cast off, right? Anyway, the cast off. So I did one, I think it was something like Serena's cast off method or something like that, but you guys had actually suggested it, that it was a yarn over bind off method. So that's the one that I tried, and it is pretty good. There's still a little bit of flare, but it is much better. Much better. So yes, that is a completed sock. And then I am on the foot of the second one. And obviously this one has a left and a right sock, because the pattern will be on the outside of the foot. So you just have to knit the plain part first and then do the lace pattern. Oh my gosh, my brain. So that is them. She has a Cozy Toes Cal, which is a make along that she is running for her socks, her sock patterns. Every 2 months you get a new, well, you can make a new a pattern from her library. This one is the Coastal Waters this month. Last month. Let's pause. Let's get all of our thoughts together. She has a make along where she tells you one of her patterns, usually goes on sale, and you will knit them in the next 2 months. Then she will choose another one, and then you knit those for the next 2 months. So she says it's going to go into next year as well, so it'll be 12 total pairs. And I think I've participated in all but one, and that was just because the pattern was not jiving with my brain, and I was going through it at that time. So I think it was the first one that I missed, or maybe the second one. But yeah, so that is her make along. If you are interested in that, it is run over on Instagram. So check out her Instagram, Roro and Cades, to participate. But that is where I am on the second sock. This one will run through to the end of October. I think it's like the 28th that it ends for this month. This is the yarn that I'm using, which is Long Dog Yarns Yak Sock in the Big House colorway. This is a colorway from her Outlander collection. And I just thought this yarn screamed plain lace. And it is super soft. I'm excited to wear them and have them, even though they'll be a little bit big. That is okay. I'm all right with that. They'll be cozy. That is in another Fat Squirrel bag. Let's toss that one over there so I can put it back on my whip cart. The other sock that I have is a DK weight sock. Now, I have done enough adjustments that I feel confident saying that this is no longer directly from a pattern. I have made enough of my vanilla adjustments to say that it is a sock recipe now for me, just like my vanilla socks that I make on the daily are no longer off of a pattern. I've combined enough that it's not one directly. But if you're interested in a DK weight pair of socks, the DK weight DK vanilla socks by the Crazy Sock Lady, it's a free pattern, would be the closest. But my stitch counts and things are a little bit different. I do things a little bit differently based on my own vanilla recipe. Anyway, these are DK weight socks that I cast on at the football game the other day and got through most of it, but have not really worked on them much since then. I cast these on at the football game, and my nephew was sitting next to me, and I said, who should these be for? And he said, I don't know. And I said, how about you? Do you like this color? Do you want this? And he said, sure. So they are going to be for my nephew to have some cozy warm socks. Most likely I'll give them to him for Christmas since I don't have any for him ready to go. But this is the yarn, which is Super Glow Fibers in After Midnight, I believe, which is from the Chaperone collection of 2024. And this is in her Glossy DK, which is 100% superwash merino. This is my first time using her DK base for socks, I think, at least like the plain DK. I know I've used her tweed base, the one that has the specks in it, but I don't know what it is about this yarn, but it feels like cotton to me. Like, not the actual like strength of it, obviously it's a wool, but the texture of it as I am using it feels like cotton, and I am not a fan of the way that cotton feels on my hands. So this one's been a little bit tough as far as texture to knit on, but usually I'm at a football game, I am sweaty, and I don't really care what it feels like. But just a strange note. And I have other DK weight yarns from this collection, and they don't feel like this. So I wonder if it's something with the purple dyes maybe in this color that is causing that. It's also like a little bit more fuzzy. I don't think you can see the halo on that, but it's also a lot more fuzzy than the other one. So I don't know if maybe this is a different type or something. I don't know. Just a little bit different. Not bad in any way. I should preface that. It's not bad in any way. It's just different than I expect with a superwash yarn. Just a different feel. But that is my After Midnight socks that I'm making for my nephew Levi. Those will likely be football socks. We have 2 more games. I don't have anyone playing high school football. I'm there for the band. So we have 2 more games before the season's over. So those will likely be band concert socks after that. That is all the socks. We are 34-ish minutes in, and we still have more to go. So hope you have a snack. All right. So the next thing that I cast on was soon after the last podcast. This is in a Fiber Fox bag. I had to think about that. This is a Fiber Fox bag, which is in the UK. It is my Suspicious Bunny bag. This bunny has done some very suspicious things, and you can tell by its face. This is a bag I used for some bigger projects, but it was just the one that was on top when I was trying to find a bag for this. Let me tell you about the yarn first. So this is Knitting for Olive, the cotton merino, and the colorway is Dusty Artichoke. You can see that there. So it is 70% cotton and 30% extra fine merino. I have 3 balls of this that I purchased to make my niece a new t-shirt. I made her one, I believe, early last year, and she continues to wear it, but it is getting too short for her. Like, she's growing in height. So it's a little bit too short for her. It's more like a crop top. And so while, you know, if she's wearing high-waisted pants and stuff, that doesn't matter too much. It's not really appropriate for school times. So I have cast on the Little Ripple Tee by Jessie Mae Designs. and I am using custom counts, using her pattern as the base, like as a recipe, to be able to understand what I need to do as far as like increases and things like that. But I have measured my gauge, and I needed a fabric that, because this is for my niece who is 9, almost 9. Anyway, she obviously cannot have super duper see-through fabric to wear as a tiny human. So I had to have a gauge that made sense for what she needs to wear versus the pattern. So my gauge is much, much smaller. I have more stitches per inch. And the little ripple tee, or little ripple tee. I feel like it said crop in it. Little ripple crop top. Anyway, that pattern only goes up to a size 8. And for the measurement, I could use the size 8, but for my gauge, I would need to use a larger count. I looked at the ripple tee that is the adult sizes, and it's possible that that could work, but it is a lower V than the child version, and obviously I don't want to use that for a child. So I'm using the counts, the inspiration from Jessie Made Designs, and then I am using my own counts and kind of winging it. So we shall see. It is a bottom up tee, which is a 3x3 rib, and I'm just working my way up. Kate is very tall and very long torsoed, so it will be a bit using this fingering weight yarn to make her a tee. She has already requested that when I make her this one, can I also make her one in black? And I have said yes. So after this one, I will, and everything works out okay count wise, I have some black fingering weight yarn that I will cast her on, a black one as well. But it is just little ribbed tee that I'm going to basically make by measure. It'll have a little V at the front, short sleeve, little cap sleeves. So that's where that's going. No real deadline on that. It is something that I've been working on when I'm playing games with her, because it's just 3x3 rib, so I can easily put it up, pick it up, put it down, you know, toss it away if I'm getting killed by the deer in 99 Nights, and continue on. So that was a new cast on that I have been working on. I have a test knit next. This bag, I don't think they have a tag on here. Who is this by? The Wandering Pearl. This bag is by The Wandering Pearl. It is a basket type bag, and I like to use it for more open projects that aren't really going to go travel with me. Like, I'm not going to take this on an airplane or anything like that. I'm not going to stuff it in a bag. May put it in a car for a car ride, but that's pretty much the extent. But this is a test knit that I am doing for Kelly of Row and Cades. This is the Athenaeum cowl. I have never made a cowl before, so this will be my first one. And if you remember, I did the Athenaeum hat the beginning of this year. And she has a tee, she has socks, and then this is going to be the cowl. So there's not much because I just started this last night. But we have begun, we have started. But like I said, this is going to be my first cowl. It doesn't really get cold enough here to wear cowls, you know, maybe a couple of days to go out to feed the chickens or something. So this is actually going to go for some donations. I have some colder weather donations that I'm going to be sending out November-ish. So this will be a donation piece as well. So those lovely folks up in the north will have some options. And this yarn, so this yarn is some yarn that I got gifted from Pupster, my friend, and it is Alpaca Warehouse, 100% superwash wool. I have 3 balls of this. It is a DK weight yarn made in Peru, and this is the information there for the colorway, 3988. And it's just this really pretty blue. And if I'm not mistaken, he got this as off of Amazon. I'm not sure where else it is available, but it was shipped by Amazon to me, that I believe he gave me for Christmas. So yes, I've been looking for something to use this yarn for, specifically something, you know, warm, since it's DK weight, 100% wool, and I think this will be perfect. It'll be a nice blue cowl for someone to wear in the colder climates. I'm using, these needles are a little bit different than what I normally show you guys, but they are still Chalgu. They are the original Forte. So these are the ones that are made with wood instead of the carbon fiber. And I'm using my red lace needles. Red lace cables. I do not like the twist cables. They have too much of a grip on the slide. So I don't typically use the cables that came with these needles. And I'm actually knitting this traveling loop. So right now I have it, you know, just on the needle resting. But when I am knitting it, I will pull this needle all the way out and knit off. And then once I get back around to where this needle is out, I will then pull the needle out again. And it's the traveling loop method, if you need to know that. It's like in between when you can't really use a magic loop because your cable's not long enough, but you still need to have less cable. Because this is the only cable that I have left that doesn't have a project on it, besides my twisty needles, and I still only had this size left in the twisty needle. So that's unfortunate. So yeah, so that is a test knit, again, for Roro and Cade's. That pattern, the Athenaeum, I believe I'm saying that correctly, is going to have fingering weight and DK weight. It has one size. It's, you know, one that just goes around the neck, not too tight, but, you know, doesn't double loop or anything like that. But it will have fingering weight and DK weight. I think both of them will be included in one pattern, but I'm not 100% sure about that. And, yes, it comes out next month, as far as I know, as long as everything goes well, I'm sure. And I'm a little bit behind on the test knit because I got the notification earlier this week, but I wasn't able to actually sit down, do a test, you know, a swatch, as you should with test knits. Wasn't able to swatch and really like pay attention to processing the pattern until last night. So that is the cowl. My last work in progress. Or I should say works in progress, because there are two of them. If you are around and about, you know that Sarah Shira is doing her Halloween gnome, mystery gnome make-along, and it is Numpkin and Nettle. They are the gnomes that you're doing. One is more like a pumpkin-y themed, you know, traditional pumpkin-y themed gnome, and then one is using that same pumpkin-y theme base, but then adding some witchy things. So Nettle is the witchy one, and Numpkin is the pumpkin-based one. From what I know, we've only had one clue. So if you do not want to be spoiled on what the first clue is, I have completed, you're supposed to make 2 pieces that look the same for each gnome. I have made 1 piece of each. So if you don't want to know what that is, then skip to this time so that you are not spoiled, and you'll be on to my stats at that point. But if you're here to see what my colors and pieces look like, here's where we are. So my first one is going to be Nettle, and these are in my Barley Pearls bags, which are perfect for this because it's not a full sock, you know, it's using multiple balls. My needles are in this one, so it's sticking in there, but you know, it's not a full skein. So these are the colors that I'm using for Nettle. The dark blue is going to be her accent colors. The green is supposed to be like the pumpkin color, and then the pink is supposed to be like the flesh parts, like the arms, the skin tones, I guess. So those are the colors that I'm using. These are just random minis that I have. I believe by the feel of these, they are from a local dyer that no longer dyes, and I got them from my local yarn shop that is no longer open. So Unfortunately, I don't have any information on what these are, but it's just a sage green, a dark blue, and a light pink. If I were to change anything, I would probably take away this pink and use more of a gray, because you'll see on the piece, the dark blue is, it's not rubbing off on it, but the fuzzies, the halo from the dark blue is making the pink look a little muddied, but I'm not too worried. It's going to be the witchy one, so maybe it fits. So here is the piece, and we're going to make 2 of these. And my guess is that this is a leg. So I have not made any gnomes from Sarah Shira. I've seen several gnomes, but I don't think I've seen any of her gnomes have legs. So my assumption is we're going to have a pumpkin body that has little legs that are going to dangle. I cannot. I'm so excited. So I'm carrying my yarn up, and so my leg curves in quite a bit, but I'm not too concerned about that, because she said that the jog is going to be facing, you know, towards the body of the gnome, and this part will be facing out. So if it is attached to the little gnome and it hangs off of a shelf like this, I think that's perfectly fine. I'm not stressed about it. It will straighten out if I wanted to, but I don't. So that is nettle, and I need to make another one of those mystery pieces that are quite obviously legs. And then in my other barley pearl bag is Numpkin. Numpkin's colors are these, and the instructions specifically said for nettle to do the skin tone color in 2 small balls. That's why that one is in 2 small balls, but it was not stated for Numpkin. So Numpkin's skin color is this browny gray, this color is the accent color, and this is the pumpkin color for Numpkin. And Numpkin's piece was a little bit different. So still quite obviously a leg, but striped a little bit different. We used all 3 colors. Even the bottom of the foot is a different color. And so because there wasn't as many color changes, his leg doesn't curve as much, but either way, I think it's adorable. I know that there's a video that speaks about working in small circumferences. I'm obviously using DPNs, and maybe I'll watch that to see how they suggest like sewing in ends, because it says to sew in the ends at the end if you cut your yarn, but how do you turn it inside out with the needle still attached to then stuff it afterwards? Because it's only stuffed in the foot portion. I'm just gonna go ahead and say it's a foot. I mean, obviously that's what it looks like. But anyway, that is my Numpkin, and I have to make another foot for him as well. I stayed up late to finish his foot last night. So I believe the next clue comes out on the 7th, so I should have plenty of time to make both legs. Obviously, I'm participating in it and making both of them. You can choose one and just make one of them, but I'm choosing both. As far as I know, you can still sign up to do the make-along. I don't exactly know how her make-alongs work. I'm only participating in it in the way that I am making them. I'm not, you know, in the community part of it, and I'm not going to enter for prizes. I just want to make the gnomes. I've requested her book for Christmas, and may or may not have been told it's already in the closet, so you will see more gnomes because I'm excited to make those. Okie dokie. That is all the works in progress. Stats. I'm going to have my notebook out so that I can read you my stats. If you are new here, I am updating you guys on my stats, more of a accountability. I have always said and will always say that collecting yarn is way different for me than using yarn. It's 2 separate hobbies. I really enjoy collecting yarn. Using yarn is art. Like, I have some hanging up on my wall. I have it displayed behind me. My yarns that I get during the year are here. I really like the inspiration that yarn gives me for making projects. I'm inspired by the colors, by the textures, by, you know, the way that they can be used together in something that maybe wasn't intended. You know, they weren't made to go together. So I'm just inspired by the collecting of yarn to then use yarn to make things. So collecting yarn and making yarn, two separate things for me. However, my nephew asked me about this actually when I was showing him like my database. I use Notion to keep track of all of this. And he was like, you know, it's two separate hobbies, collecting it and using it. I said, it is, but it doesn't make sense to me to purchase, random number, 10,000 grams of yarn in a year and only use 5,000. Because eventually you're going to have way more yarn than you will ever be able to use. So it'll be overconsumption, it'll be over purchasing, over collecting of yarn. Now, that doesn't matter so much to me, like it doesn't actually like cause me anxiety or anything like that, to have more yarn that I can use, because I am always very willing to give some away if, you know, I don't need to use it or it no longer inspires me. I'm absolutely fine to, you know, have it as a giveaway or de-stash or whatever, without getting that money back. Like, that's not a concern to me. But I don't want to just over collect and not be able to use a lot of the yarn. So it's more of a way just to keep my collection and my use in balance. So this year I am particularly tracking my grams in and out, but not in a way where if I am over either way, it doesn't matter. I'm just trying to be more conscious of it. Last year I only tracked skeins in and skeins out, and that prevented me from using my mini skeins because I was like, that's not a skein, I can't count it as out. So I'm using grams this year, and that's allowing me to use a lot of my minis and leftovers and just use that as inspiration. So let's get into stats. I'm updating you guys every quarter. So this is at the end of September, the last day of September. I wrote in my book my stats before continuing on into October. So in for this year is a total of 7,650 grams. In the beginning of the year, I de-stashed 800 grams. I have not de-stashed any more since then, but that was grams out. I have used a total of 6,657 grams, and that means that I have used a total of out, de-stash, and used of 7,457, which means that I am in a positive, meaning I have more in my collection than I've used, of 193 grams. That's not bad. I'm not concerned about that at all. Mostly because, again, I don't need to explain myself in the way that, you know, this is why I have it, but I purchased a 1,000 gram cone of undyed yarn. So that's 10 skeins of yarn that is not in a project, not going to be used for a project right away, but to have that undyed yarn. It's going to be used for a blanket. I'm going to use it to hold some of my Surrey alpaca for some socks, but it's not intended for a project. Like, I didn't buy one skein and that's how it is. It's 10 skeins of yarn in one. I also got about 800 grams in my niece's keychains, which is cotton yarn. And obviously it's not going to use all of that, and that's more of a long-term project. I have cast on or started another one of the keychains for the Saja boys from K-Pop Demon Hunters, and I'll show you those as I complete them. But yeah, it's a lot of that yarn is like bulk for a project that, or, you know, future projects that haven't been used yet. So I'm not concerned about being over by almost 200 grams. Again, I have plans to make like the shrug for my sister that's going to use several skeins. These blankets, I did measure the diagonal blanket and put the totals that I have used so far in that at the end of September, so that's counted in. But there are some things that I haven't counted in because they're still in use, like I'm still making them. So I'm not concerned about that number. It's actually making me feel really good that I am pretty close to what I've purchased versus what I can use. All right, acquisitions. I don't have too many for you. I have the Yarnaceous fibers for this month, September. She doesn't put the dates on here, but I think this is the September one. So if you haven't seen that and you don't want to, look away because I'm about to show it. I have the Taylor Swift Reads one. This is the stitch marker, which is a little like potion bottle, I would say. Or a message in a bottle. I'm not sure. I know Taylor Swift songs, but I don't know the like iconography? The icon-ish part of things, like what's in her music videos or whatnot. But this looks like a message in a bottle or potion bottle. And the yarn looks like this, which is very pretty. This is different from what I usually see from Yarnaceous Fibers. Usually her colors are very muted and uniform. Like some of them may have some stripes or like some more variegated than tonal. But this is interesting. I really like this. Like there's the darker colors on one side and then the lighter colors on the other side. It doesn't want to focus on it. But yeah, I am interested in casting this on and seeing how it'll work up in some socks for my sister. So that is Yarnaceous Fibers. And then I did a stitch marker notions purchase from Twill and Print. Is that what that is? Yeah, Twill and Print Fiber Studio. I've seen these on ads in like Instagram and Facebook, and every time I go to purchase them, they're sold out. So they did a restock. I signed up for their newsletter, and so I was able to snatch some up. So this is a progress keeper that has a, see if I can get my fingers to work backwards, has a number wheel so that you can track which row you are on. I think this is super helpful for if you are working on a pair of socks that maybe you stop in the middle of a repeat or something like that, if you're doing a complicated lace pattern, and then you know what row you are on when you come back to it. That's where I would use this if I'm, you know, working on something that has a less than 10 repeat, but somewhere where I may stop and I just need to know where to pick back up. And then the other one is actually an enamel pin, and it has two sides. So on the side here, so you can have double numbers, so you know, 2-digit numbers, and that's the same thing, but it has a enamel pin backing, so you can put it on your bag and then keep track of your stitch counts or row counts there. So those, beautiful, love those, excited to use them now. That's all of my acquisitions. Lifey stuff, it's just been busy. We have just been on the go a lot. My nephew has a lot of school related events because he's in marching band and in like a marching band group as well. So he has a lot of stuff going on with band. Just keeping up with that. I've been playing a lot of games with my niece, which is super fun, but also keeps me busy. And the chickens are doing great. Charlie's doing great. Sadie, one of our new chickens, she laid her first egg 2 weeks ago, and she has laid every day since then. Every day she's been laying an egg, so she deserves a break. And we think that another one of them, I'm thinking Abby, the all black one, I think she is starting to lay, but it was a soft egg. Not sure it was in the coop, like in the litter, so not sure who laid that one. But we're keeping an eye on her. But yeah, everybody is doing well in the animal world as well. So last thing I want to talk about, SAF. I think it's the Southeastern Fiber Fair, which is in Fletcher, North Carolina, Asheville, North Carolina. It's one of the fiber festivals that are yearly. I went not last year, but the year before with my mom. We had a blast, and we were supposed to go last year with a bunch of my knitting friends, but due to a hurricane that happened at the end of September, obviously the fiber festival was canceled. So this year, me and my mom and possibly my niece are going again. So if you guys are going to SAF, let me know. I'm excited to do a little bit of shopping there, and we're going a day extra so that we can not be rushed in our shopping and looking. So that's coming up in a couple of weeks, and I'm super excited about it. I can't remember if I'm recording this week. I won't record the next week. So I think I'll have one more podcast before SAF, and then I'll do SAF roundup and a podcast, most likely. All right, last thing will be books. So I did finish, because I've been working on my cross stitch, I did finish Wayward. I don't have the artist written down here, or the author. I don't have that written down here, so I'm going to put a picture up here. I did finish this book. This was a recommendation, I believe, from my sister. And it is a great book. Loved it. I'm listening to it on audiobook. I didn't have the physical copy, but was not prepared for the content of this book. So if you have any triggers or anything like that for essay, then maybe stay away from this book, because it was not expected when I started reading it. And anyway, just content warning there. But the book, the context of the book, the actual story, the way that the characters develop and everything and ties together is glorious. So I loved it. Beautiful book. So definitely recommend that. And I have a wheel on my phone that has the current audiobooks that I have purchased, and Pride and Prejudice was what was spun. So I'm currently listening to Pride and Prejudice. Prejudice? I can't say that word. Anyway, I'm listening to that, which is Jane Austen, I believe. So that is my current audiobook that I'm doing while I'm cross stitching. So I need to get my next cross stitch project going so that I can be listening more on that. Obviously that's a classic, so no spoilers are needed. I've watched the movies and shows and stuff like that, but I just want to get the book part of it. I love when you've seen a movie or something like that and you read the book and there's so much more context, so much more story, and yeah, fun stuff. Okay, that is all. I feel like I have talked my throat dry, so I'm gonna go get some fluids. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this long episode. I will hopefully see you guys in 2 weeks, as long as, and the next time I need to record, I'm not grumpy. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.